776. Last night, Dodgers pitcher Walker Buehler only allowed one hit over 6 innings in the Dodgers 6-0 win over Game 1 against the Nationals, or in Game 1 over the Nationals. This player resume is being brought to you by Indeed, used by over 3 million businesses for hiring. Post a job today at Indeed.com/hire. Also, ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Home Insurance. Getting a quote is easier than ever before. Any minute now, we should be having NFL insider and analyst Louis Riddick contributes to First Take, contributes to Get Up. See him on NFL Live. Definitely see him on Monday Night Football, NFL Countdown, all of that good stuff. So if anybody knows what's going on, he does. If anybody can provide us an accurate perspective about what's going on, he can. So I'm looking forward to talking to him any moment now. Whenever we get him on the line, he will be here. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Couple of things. Zerline may have missed that field goal last night, blowing the game for the Los Angeles Rams. But the Rams certainly didn't help themselves either. Delay of game penalty right before that. Can't ignore that. Everett letting the ball go right through his hands so Thompson could intercept it for the Seahawks on the ensuing drive, on a drive before that. That definitely played a role. Allowing Carson to run for 118 yards and 27 carries. That didn't help matters. We all know that. And Russell Wilson looked like a star. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Russell Wilson right now is number 2 to he's number 2 to Patrick Mahomes for league MVP honors. We can slice it any way we want to, but if you're paying attention, it's hard to ignore what Russell Wilson is bringing to the table. The dude is completing nearly 73% of his passes, or actually 73% of his passes. He's thrown 12 touchdowns, not a single interception on the season in the first 5 games. He's passed for over 1,400 yards. He's got a quarterback rating. I forgot what it was, whether it was 113 or 126, QBR of 80. He's been doing it. On the line as promised is Louis Riddick right now. What's going on, Big Time? How are you?
Stephen A., how are you, man?
I got Russell Wilson as number 2 in league MVP if I had to vote today, second to Patrick Mahomes. And damn it, I don't even know if that's right. Your thoughts about what you saw last night from him in Seattle's victory over the Los Angeles Rams?
Yeah, I think you're right on track with it, simply because the way I'd like to look at MVPs is this. If you took that particular player off of their football team, what kind of tangible effect would it have on their fortunes? Look, you take Patrick Mahomes off of Kansas City, they have a lot of great weapons, but, I mean, they become, I don't know, maybe an 8-win team, 9-win team. You take Russell Wilson off of Seattle's football team, I don't even know if they're 500. And the things that he's doing for them, the off-schedule stuff, the stuff that doesn't come within the normal structure of a play call, it's incredible. It really is. I think sometimes the play calls in the huddle might be Russell's drop back and do something. Russell's drop back and just create something. We're going to run down here, and it's probably not going to be the way it's supposed to be, but you're just going to have to make some stuff happen. And he's incredible at the way he avoids hits in the pocket. He never really takes a big shot down the field when he is running and he's scrambling beyond the line of scrimmage. And he never changes. He's always the same guy, always eternally optimistic, always has the right outlook on things, always never talks bad about his teammates, never talks bad about it. He embodies, I think, almost everything you think about when you think of MVP.
So if that's the case, and look at what you said here, not only is that the case, but you talked about the likelihood of what Seattle would be without him. Mm-hmm. What does that say about the team that they have? I mean, we look at the Rams. On the defensive side of the ball, there's Aaron Donald, there's Aqib Talib, there's Marcus Peters, there's Brockers and others. On the offensive side of the ball, you got Gurley, you've got Goff, you've got Woods, you've got Kupp, etc. Whereas with Seattle, it seems to be Russell Wilson or bust.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you sit over the past couple of years, you start to wonder, you think, man, I mean, why hasn't Seattle been able to really put together a more formidable roster on its surface as far as weaponry for Russell?
Okay.
And that's not to take anything away from DK Metcalf That's not to take anything away from Tyler Lockett. It's not to take anything away from Doug Baldwin when he was there, because Doug Baldwin was one of the best slot receivers this game's ever seen. Mm-hmm. Okay, so these are good football players, but they're not, they're not Brandon Cooks, they're not Cooper Kupp, they're not Robert Woods, they're not Todd Gurley, they're just not. So what Russell is doing in that context is just extraordinary, especially in an offense that really is philosophically predicated on the run. I believe right now Seattle is 6th overall in rush percentage, meaning percentage of play calls that are run plays.
Okay.
I think they're right around 45, 46%, which is where Pete wants it. That's where they were in their heyday when Marshawn was, in true beast mode and the Legion of Boom was really going on. So Russell, it's not like they really emphasize the downfield complex passing attack. So the numbers he puts up and the efficiency with which he plays the game outside of normal structure just makes what he's doing all the more incredible.
Right now, it's them and it's L.A., and that's the way it's been for the last several years. Mm-hmm. Now San Francisco appears on the come up with porn star Jimmy himself, Jimmy Garoppolo. My thoughts from you, or rather, I'm interested in your thoughts on San Francisco and how legit of a team are they? They are one of the undefeated teams in the game right now.
Sure. I mean, when they traded for Jimmy Garoppolo, I thought, given the price they paid to get what I was perceiving to be a premium talent, albeit someone who you could only gauge on, based off a very limited resume, I thought San Fran was making one of the great trades that they ever made in the history of that organization. And I know that sounds big, that sounds dramatic, but I really thought Jimmy would be that good based off of some of the things I had heard from the people in New England about how high of a ceiling they thought Jimmy had. So if you say that you think that they're in good shape long term at quarterback, they have 3 very good pass rushers. They need another young corner, which is why I thought Jalen Ramsey would be someone that they should target. They have a young group of wide receivers led by Deebo Samuel, who I think are going to be very good. Okay, they have one of the best young defensive tackles in the league in DeForest Buckner. They have some of the best young linebackers in the NFL, inside linebackers in particular, starting with Quan Alexander. So they've got guys all throughout this roster that are I shouldn't even say sneaky good. They just don't get a lot of pub because they're not really, at the forefront of the discussion when we're talking about teams that we're talking about as, potential Super Bowl winners. Mm-hmm. But as they continue to stack wins, Stephen A., and if Jimmy can stay healthy and live up to what I thought was tremendous potential based on what I saw in New England, and then in the first couple of games that he played there in his first year there, San Francisco is going to all of a sudden announce themselves onto the scene where people are going, where the hell did they come from? But they've been kind of slowly building it. They've been slowly building it. And they have a big matchup this Monday night against the Browns. Although the Browns haven't really proven anything either to go on Monday night, and with these two teams that are both on the come up, if they can go ahead and put a whooping on Cleveland, people will start taking notice. And then once they get into their divisional schedule, and they go ahead and bang heads with the Rams and bang heads with Seattle, and stomp out Arizona, people will take them serious. And I think that's what's coming.
Louis Riddick right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's transition to the NFC, or stay within the NFC, but go up north. The Giants have a game this Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings, and the Minnesota Vikings in the NFC North. We heard the news. We heard what Thielen said essentially about Kirk Cousins. We see that Stephon Diggs wants out. What do you make about what's going on in Minnesota, and how can they remedy everything?
Yeah, they're really stuck. They're stuck because they have tied themselves to Kirk Cousins. Obviously, the powers that be who make the decisions up there, I'm sure, thought it through thoroughly and discussed it thoroughly as to what it would mean to go ahead and give him a fully guaranteed contract, and what that would mean as far as not being able to get rid of him, designing an offense that would suit his needs, surrounding him, or suit his skill level rather, surrounding him with players that would fit the kind of offense that Kirk would thrive in and that the offensive coordinator would want to run, on down the line. So I would assume they thought that out very thoroughly, and that this was something that's coming along right now is not something that they thought was ever going to happen. So they're stuck. They're just flat out stuck. So now it's going to be up to Mike Zimmer, guys like Gary Kubiak, who's up on that coaching staff as well, to figure out what do we do as far as now being able to open up this offense more to where we are getting the return on investment that we made in Kirk Cousins, utilizing him to the fullest, to the utmost, not just relying on Dalvin Cook, not having our number one and number two wide receiver who we paid all this money to now be ticked off over the fact that they're not being utilized the way they were, because eventually what that's going to do is this is going to tear at the fabric of the franchise, and next thing you know, they're going to start underperforming. People are going to start losing jobs. Salary cap's going to get thrown all out of whack because you're going to be starting to try and move and or cut players who are going to count against the cap in terms of dead money. That's how GMs get fired. That's how teams get thrown in the cap purgatory. That's how you wind up drafting at the top of the draft because you're having to start all over again. So how do you fix it? You get your heads together and try to emphasize the strengths that you have on your offensive roster and minimize the weaknesses, and they better get that done in a hurry. Otherwise, all those things that I just said are going to come to fruition, and Minnesota's going to be in trouble.
Louis Riddick, NFL analyst extraordinaire for ESPN, right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio, ESPN News. How do you feel about Daniel Jones now that you've got to watch him for 2 games going into his 3rd start of his rookie campaign with the Giants?
You know, it's interesting. People think because of how much I like Dwayne Haskins coming out of school I said I would have taken Dwayne Haskins, that I don't like Daniel Jones, and I've never said I don't like Daniel Jones. He is a tremendous athlete who was well schooled by David Cutcliffe at Duke,
Right.
Who played with some weapons on the perimeter that weren't NFL caliber weapons, and a lot of that kind of suppressed his statistics that he was able to put up. And now that he's able to really spread his wings and flourish and play with some better players and continue his education in football as far as being coached at the pro level, he's showing you everything that he really had in terms of upside. And it's not shocking. It's shocking. It's a little shocking at how quickly he's playing at such a high efficiency level. But look, if I'm the Giants right now, I'm feeling good about what our quarterback has shown us. There's no doubt about that. And I think as they build out the rest of the roster around him, especially on the offensive side, I mean, who's to say what his upside could be? I mean, he could be one of the best quarterbacks in the league based off of his limited experience already. He's shown you that. And you'd be exercising your own agenda and just trying to be, contrary to say otherwise.
With the Redskins, let me transition to them and stay within the NFC East division. With the Redskins, Adam Schefter was on NFL Countdown last week reporting how it's not a matter of if, but when Jay Gruden is going to be fired as the head coach for the Washington Redskins. I got a couple of calls from folks in D.C. saying it should be as early as this Monday. Daniel Snyder didn't want to let go of him before the Patriots game, but it's a foregone conclusion that he's done. He knows he's done. People in the Redskins organization in the building know that he's done. It's just a matter of time. What do you make about what's going on in the nation's capital, and what do you think can be done other than, for me, Louis Riddick getting an executive's position out there and picking the next head coach, probably Tomlin from the Steelers, for crying out loud, if they were foolish enough to let him go? What are your thoughts about what's happening in the nation's capital?
Yeah, it's unfortunately, man, it's history's repeating itself in Washington as far as there being turmoil already early in the season, question marks about the head coach, question marks about the front office and the leadership and the people in leadership positions in that part of the football operation, and then they're eventually leading to an organizational reset. I mean, that's what's going to happen. We know that Jay's on his way out. We know that people in D.C., from a fan base perspective, and even people around the league, insiders around the league, other front office people around the league, wonder just how long can Bruce Allen hang on? How much can his business influence on that football team override the fact that from a personnel standpoint, he hasn't gotten the job done at all? How much can that continue to carry as much weight with Dan as it has in the past? And that's too bad, man, because really what's going to have to happen right now is, once again, and I don't know when the light's going to necessarily come on, but at some point Dan's going to really have to do a thorough job of finding that one guy. And he's always had one guy that really advises him on everything that is the football operation. And that one guy has to be rock solid. That one guy has to be rock solid in terms of philosophically what it's going to take in order to really build a stable, solid foundation for this football team to where there's not always cracks forming in the foundation and them resetting this place every 4 to 5 years. Because really, he hasn't found that one guy since he's owned the team. He hasn't found that one guy that's been able to really steer them in the right direction on a consistent basis. It always gets sideways, and it usually gets sideways because somehow, some way, that guy starts to philosophically see things different than what the head coach sees it. That guy starts to philosophically see things differently in terms of how players are selected, how players are utilized. That guy then communicates that to Dan. Then Dan gets angry with the coach. Dan starts to side with certain players. Players start to go past the coach to Dan and to that guy who is advising him. And as you can see, it just becomes a convoluted mess. And what happens is the place starts to rot. The culture starts to just absolutely deteriorate. They start losing games. Players start quitting. Players start looking at the scoreboard. Fans stop showing up. Fans start bringing signs to games, that are disparaging and disrespectful to Dan and the Redskins and everything else. And then we have the situation that we have right now. They become the lead story in the news cycle in a negative way. And in January, people get fired. They have to hire someone else. They sell the same BS hope to the fan base in the offseason, and they start the whole cycle all over again. So how does he stop that cycle from happening that's been happening for the past 20 years? That one guy that's sitting next to him on his plane, in his private car, on his boat, in his suite, in his office, wherever he keeps his offices now, he has to get that decision right even more so than he has to get right the decision as to who's going to be the next head coach, because that's where it goes wrong with him. I can tell you this from experience, having been there, that's where it goes wrong.
Got you. Louis Riddick right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. One more quick question before I get to a rapid fire of these games, rapid fire answers from you. Before I do that, Jalen Ramsey, real quick. Are the Jacksonville Jaguars, Shad Khan, the owner, to be specific, doing the right thing by holding on to him, saying we're not moving him, even though it's clear he doesn't want to be there?
I think they are at this point, because I think Mr. Khan believes as though he can maybe, fix the relationship. And that's really what it's all about at this point. And he understands how valuable Jalen is to his football team. And he doesn't want to let go of someone like that. He just doesn't. This is a guy who's a unique player. And you don't want to let go of unique players over relationship issues, especially if you think you can fix them. And I think he's trying to put the brakes on all that and put a halt to all that stuff and say, hey, look, you know what? Our egos are getting in the way here. A bunch of egos are getting in the way because we're about to lose a premium young player. And that's just not something we want to be in the business of doing. So I'm hoping he can fix it. I really am. And that's not me trying to be pro management. I just think that's a smart thing to do.
All right. Before I let you get on out of here, 10-second answers to each of these questions.
Yeah.
Carolina versus Jacksonville.
Whew, you know what? I kind of like what Kyle Allen's doing right now. I'm going to go with Carolina.
Cincinnati versus Arizona. Both winless.
Man, that's a sorry game right there, man.
I'm going with Arizona.
I'm going to go with the Bengals.
Houston versus Atlanta, the 1-3 Atlanta Falcons, which makes no sense to me.
Houston versus Atlanta's underachieving in a big way. But I love Deshaun Watson's magic right now. I'll go with Houston.
New Orleans hosting Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that's going to be a close one because I think Tampa Bay is about to surprise some people and slap some people upside the head, so to speak. But I'm still going to go with the Saints because I really do think that coaching in New Orleans and that defense is going to make the difference.
Giants hosting the Minnesota Vikings. Troubled Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, tell me about it. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised to see the Giants step up and pull the upset. I'll go Giants there.
Oakland versus Khalil Mack and the Chicago Bears in London.
Yeah, Khalil ain't going to let them lose that game. Chicago.
Jets visiting Philadelphia and Carson Wentz. Your guy, Carson Wentz.
Yeah, Carson's about to have his breakout game of the year. He's going to pass for over 350, probably knocking on the door of 400, 3 touchdowns. I think Philly wins that game big.
Pittsburgh hosting Baltimore.
Mason Rudolph looked nice last week. You know what? In Pittsburgh, I think the defense may have turned around. Devin Bush looked really good Monday night. Secondary looks better. I think Pittsburgh may rattle off a few wins here. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh.
Tennessee hosting the 3-1 Buffalo Bills.
Wow. See, Tennessee's another one of those teams that goes up and down, up and down. Marcus is hot one week, he's not hot the next. But down in Tennessee, I'll go with the Titans.
Colt McCoy is starting, but the Washington Redskins have the New England Patriots coming to town. I know it's a trend. Sounds like a trick question, but I still got to ask.
Yeah, it's a wrap. That'll be the Patriots.
Chargers hosting the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Chargers there. Denver is so disappointing right now.
I was going to say, how's your boy Vic Fangio 0-4?
I know, it's crazy. It really is. It's because they've got some good players out there, and they got some good. Not only are they good players, there's some good people out there, and that's too bad that they've hit the skids like this. And Bradley Chubb getting hurt just kills me. But I got to go with the Chargers.
The 3-1 Green Bay Packers, led by Aaron Rodgers, visiting the 3-1 Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Dallas because I think. Here's the thing: Dallas can run the football. Dallas can stop the run. Packers can't do either. And I think this is one of those games that Dak really does announce that, hey, all you people who want to see me, who really just think I'm a game manager, I'm going to show you. I'm a little bit more than that.
Sunday Night Football. Jacoby Brissett and the Indianapolis Colts visit the Kansas City Chiefs.
There's some people who are picking the Colts in an upset right here, and I'm a big Jacoby Brissett fan. But this is one of them games where Pat Mahomes comes back after being held without a touchdown last week in Detroit, and I think they light Indianapolis up pretty good.
Monday night, the Cleveland Browns, Odell Beckham Jr., Baker Mayfield, they visit the San Francisco 49ers.
I'm gonna go San Fran out there. I think Richard Sherman, he's one of those people who thinks that, and rightfully so, that people aren't giving them enough credit. People are giving Tampa Bay a lot of credit, but no one would give San Fran credit for beating Tampa Bay. I think San Fran wins that game, and we have to really start talking about, are the 49ers legit?
I appreciate you, buddy. Thanks a lot, man. We'll talk next week. The one and only Louis Riddick right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Back with your calls and more in a minute.
Your radio, your computer, your phone. Or just tell your smart speaker to play ESPN.